The Dornier Do was a twin-engine German light bomber of the 1930s that, along with the Heinkel HE-111, was the main bomber type of the Luftwaffe at the start of the Second World War. Sleek and slim in profile, it earned the nickname Fliegender Bleistift, or flying pencil, for its narrow, elongated fuselage and shoulder-mounted wings. The design originated from the concept of a Schnellbomber, a fast bomber meant to outrun enemy fighters rather than rely on heavy defensive armament. First flying in November 1934 and entering Luftwaffe service by 1937, the Do-17 was debuted during the Spanish Civil War, where it operated as part of the Condor Legion, admired by its crews for its responsive handling, especially at low altitude, made it a difficult target and a preferred mount compared to heavier bombers of the era. Over 2,100 Do-17s were produced, serving not only in Germany's Air Force, but also in several other nations' air arms. By mid-1940, production had ceased as more advanced designs like the Junkers Ju-88 and the larger Dornier Do-217 took over. Even so, the Do-17's legacy was cemented by its extensive operational record. From the Spanish Civil War, the September Campaign and Blitzkrieg of Europe, the Norwegian Campaign, the Battle of France, the Battle of Brittan, and Operation Barbarossa into Soviet Russia, the Do-17 was ubiquitous in the Luftwaffe's early war effort. The Do-17's origins trace back to the German secret rearmament initiative in 1932, when Dornier Flugzeugwerk began work on a high-speed transport that was in fact a fig leaf for a high-speed Schnellbomber. In that year, a German Ordnance Department specification called for a freight aircraft for the state railways and a fast mailplane, supposedly for Deutsche Lufthansa. Dornier responded on the 1st of August 1932 by designing an all-metal twin-engine monoplane intended to meet those civilian-sounding requirements while concealing its military purpose. Early in 1933, after the Nazis rose to power, the project gained urgency. The new Reich Air Ministry under Hermann Göring approved the construction of prototypes designated Do-17, explicitly including a version described as a high-speed aircraft with double tail and a freight aircraft with special equipment, a euphemism for a bomb bay. To maintain secrecy under the guise of a commercial program, the initial design was configured as a 6-passenger mail plane. The first prototype, Do-17V1, was completed with a single vertical tail and powered by 2 BMW 6 12-cylinder inline engines. In mock-up form, it was presented in April 1933, and later that year, Dornier had orders to proceed with 3 test aircraft. It was on the 23rd of November, 1934, the Do-17V1 took to the air for its maiden flight, but it soon revealed flight stability problems due to its single-fin tail and a wholly unreliable undercarriage. Indeed, the prototype was damaged twice in landing accidents, first in February, then April 1935. Ultimately, it was rejected by Lufthansa, as the cramped cabin was too uncomfortable for passenger use and the operating costs were too high for a mail plane. Thus, as some claim, the 3 Dornier prototypes languished in storage for months until a Lufthansa test pilot, Flugkapitän Untucht, took one up in mid-1935. He reportedly put the sleek aircraft through aerobatic maneuvers and landed to exclaim that the machine is as nimble as a fighter, give it more lateral stability, and we'll have a high-speed bomber. However, this claim is somewhat contradicted by the fact that by April 1934, the Dornier works at Friedrichshafen had already begun Project Definition. This project included the design and development of the 17's defensive armament and bomb bays. Nevertheless, Dornier quickly introduced a twin-tail arrangement on the second prototype, which flew on the 18th of May 1935, finding greatly improved control. The earlier V1 was even retrofitted with a twin tail after tests showed the single rudder was only marginally effective. A third prototype, the V3, followed in September 1935 with the twin-fin tail, confirming the new configuration as standard. By 1936, further prototypes such as the V4, V6, and V7 were tested with the now standard twin tail and various internal refinements yielding positive results. These trials paved the way for series production to begin. The V8 prototype emerged as the forerunner of the long-range reconnaissance version, while the V9 was tested as a high-speed airliner. Early production 17s rolled off Dornier's assembly lines by late 1936 as both bomber and reconnaissance models. The initial production version, the DO-17E-1, was 16.25 meters long, 4.32 meters high, had a wingspan of 18 meters, and a broad 55 square meters of wing area. Powered by two BMW 6 7.3 12-cylinder liquid-cooled V-type engines producing 750 horsepower, it had a maximum speed of 330 kilometers per hour at 3,000 meters. With a standard fuel and 500 kilogram bomb load, it had a range of 850 kilometers and a service ceiling of just 5,600 meters. It initially had a crew of 3, a pilot, navigator bombardier, and a radio operator F-light engineer. With an initial reliance on speed for defense, it was very undergunned. It carried just one 7.92mm MG-15 machine gun in a rearward ventral position operated by the flight engineer. Woefully inadequate, this was soon improved to 2, with the second mounted in the nose, operated by the navigator bombardier. The DO-17 had an internal bomb bay capable of just 500 kilograms of bombs, typically 10 50-kilogram bombs, in 2 bays. A parallel long-range DO-17F-1 reconnaissance variant was also introduced, sharing the airframe of the E, but fitted with cameras and extra fuel in place of some bomb capacity. Luftwaffe units began receiving 17 E&F aircraft in early 1937, just as the new type was making its public debut. The Dornier Do entered combat operations prior to the outbreak of World War II, with its first deployment during the Spanish Civil War as part of the German Condor Legion. Here the aircraft's superior speed and agility compared to most opposing fighters, typically the Soviet-supplied Polikarpov I-15 biplane, allowed it to operate with relative impunity, cementing the German tactical doctrine of the Schnellbomber, emphasizing fast, unescorted bombing runs. These early engagements provided valuable combat data, particularly against the fast and nimble Polikarpov I-16, influencing subsequent improvements in armament and crew configuration, particularly for the Z series. The next major iteration, the DO-17M, was envisioned as a faster bomber with around 1,000 horsepower engines. Prototypes of the M series flew with the intended Daimler-Benz DB 600 power plants and showed excellent speed, indeed over 425 kilometers per hour in one test, and notably in July 1937 a DO-17M prototype in an international air competition in Zurich outpaced the fastest foreign fighter present, the French Dewoitine D510. However, Germany's priority allocation of those engines to Messerschmitt Bf-109 and Bf-110 fighters meant the DO-17M1 production version had to make do with Brahmo 323, A Fafnir radials limited to about 900 horsepower. Even so, the DO-17M1 achieved a top speed of around 420 kilometers per hour, and its bomb load was increased to 1,000 kilograms, double that of the earlier E variant, thanks to the added power and a strengthened airframe. However, the slim configuration of the bay meant it was somewhat stuck using the SC-50 bombs, as the use of the larger SC 250 kilogram would be limited to just 2 bombs. While this limitation should see the DO-17 lose favour compared to larger bombers like the HE-111, by now the concept of the Schnellbomber was fully adopted by the German command. The M1 also introduced a third dorsal-mounted 7.92mm MG-15 machine gun, operated by the radio operator gunner to defend the upper rear. Alongside it, a new DO-17P reconnaissance model was developed, using fuel-efficient BMW 132N radial engines to extend range for long-range scouting missions. These versions replaced the original E and F in production by 1938. Production of the DO-17 peaked on the eve of World War II. Dornier's main factories at Oberpfaffenhofen and Friedrichshafen, along with subcontractors like Henschel and Siebel, turned out hundreds of airframes. By September 1938, the Luftwaffe had received 579 DO-17s of all types, a testament to the rapid build-up of Germany's bomber force. After a shaky introduction with the Z series that saw the cockpit roof raised and the bottom half morph into a more typical undernose bowler of German bombers. The introduction of a new machine gun position was added to cover forward angles, operated by a dedicated gunner, and a further two side-mounted MG-15 guns were added to the cockpit, bringing the total number of mounted machine guns to 6. To accommodate the crew and ordnance, the bowler was extended back to the leading edge of the wings, where now the lower rear gunner's position and upper rear gunner position were level with each other. Unsurprisingly, the Z1 was found to be woefully underpowered for the new configuration and armament and scrapped immediately for the Z2. Mounting new 323P Brahmo Fafnir engines capable of 1,000 horsepower, the Z2 regained its nimble flight characteristics, despite its gunship-like configuration, and it could now reach a top speed of 360 km per hour. But in what would be a fatal flaw, the previous 850 km range was now a mere 666. As war broke out, the improved 17Z2 series began to roll off the lines in large numbers. Germany produced 2,139 DO-17s before manufacturing ended in mid-1940, with the Z being the main variant, clocking in at 1,170 built. Interestingly, the DO-17 also saw licensed production abroad. The Royal Yugoslav Air Force obtained a license and built an indigenous variant known as the DO-17K. Yugoslav factories produced approximately 70 of these K-series bombers by 1940, using French-made Gnome-Rhone radial engines due to an embargo on German engines. Other countries, such as Spain, received a handful of DO-17s as well. Spain's Air Force kept 13 ex-Condor Legion DO-17s in service after 1939. Thus, by the start of World War II, the DO-17 was not only in widespread German service, but had also made its way into a few foreign fleets. At the onset of World War II in September 1939, the DO-17 comprised a substantial portion of the Luftwaffe's medium bomber force. And yes, the Luftwaffe did remarkably categorize the DO-17 as a medium bomber. During the invasion of Poland, Kampfgeschwader 2, 3, 76 and 77 used the type extensively in strategic bombing of key assets and tactical support roles. The aircraft was employed to disrupt Polish troop movements, communications, and logistics. Its capability to conduct low-level attacks made it particularly effective against columns and railway targets. One of its first missions was the destruction of the bridge at Dirschau. The Luftwaffe's dominance of the air, combined with the DO-17's performance, meant that bomber losses in this phase were relatively minimal. Indeed, the only type losses were due to ground fire. Like with the Spanish Civil War, this success further cemented the German tactical doctrine of the Schnellbomber, perhaps giving a false sense of security in the DO-17's abilities. In the Western Campaign of 1940, including operations against France, the Netherlands and Belgium, the DO-17 also played a key role. Its agility enabled it to perform daylight raids with success, although it began to encounter more capable fighter opposition, including British Hurricanes and French De Woitine D-520s. Noteworthy actions included the bombardment of Belgian fortifications at Eben-Emael and airfield suppression missions in France, key in the routing and disruption of any organized resistance to the German Blitzkrieg. Attacks, like that undertaken on the 10th of May 1940, when Do-17Zs from Kampfgeschwader 76 executed a successful low-level attack against the Vros airfield in France, destroying multiple RAF aircraft on the ground, had the Allies on the back foot. However, as the Allies responded with increased fighter cover, 17's formations experienced heavier losses, leading to a transition toward lower-level attack profiles. The Battle of Brittan in mid-1940 marked the operational apex and the beginning of the decline for the Do-17. Although its smaller profile and speed enabled it to perform some daring low-level raids, it was increasingly outmatched by RAF Spitfires and Hurricanes. Units such as Kampfgeschwader 2 and 76 suffered significant attrition. With production of the 17 halted in Germany, more Kampfgeschwaders were transitioned to the Junkers Ju-88. Interestingly, on the 15th of September 1940, during the height of the air campaign, a 17Z from Kampfgeschwader 76 became the subject of one of the most iconic incidents of the battle, when it was rammed and destroyed by RAF pilot officer Ray Holmes over London, before it could reach its target, Buckingham Palace. But perhaps even more interesting was the experimental weapon on board, a rear-facing flamethrower designed to destroy attacking fighters as they closed to short range from behind. Thankfully, this secret weapon failed to perform as intended. At 16,000 feet, the oil failed to fully ignite, spraying oil over Holmes's Hurricane before he dispatched it. Following the Battle of Brittan, the Luftwaffe redirected its bomber units to other fronts. During the Balkans campaign in 1941, the Do-17 was used effectively against Yugoslav and Greek forces, exploiting its range and payload in coordinated bombing missions. Its participation in Operation Marita included attacks on strategic targets such as Belgrade, where it contributed to the rapid neutralization of Yugoslav resistance. In this theatre, the Do-17 encountered less sophisticated opposition, allowing it to perform with greater effect and lower loss rates than in Western Europe. In Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941, remaining Do-17 units, particularly elements of Kampfgeschwader 2, provided tactical bombing support for advancing German ground forces. While initially effective, the aircraft soon showed its limitations in the vast expanses of the Eastern Front. The limited payload and range of the Do-17 became problematic in a theatre demanding sustained strategic bombing and long-distance missions. Soviet air defences and improved fighter resistance also began to take a toll. Nonetheless, Do-17 crews distinguished themselves in key early battles, such as the encirclements at Białystok and Smolensk. Indeed, Hauptmann Walter Bradl, Staffelkapitän of Kampfgeschwader 2, was awarded the Knight's Cross for his leadership during operations at Grodno. Here, his Do-17s destroyed 2 columns of Soviet infantry and, with help from other units, destroyed 105 Soviet tanks, seeing the Soviet 6th and 11th Mechanized Corps and 6th Cavalry Corps routed. But Do-17 units during Barbarossa operated under increasingly difficult logistical and operational constraints, and by late 1941, most surviving aircraft were withdrawn from frontline service, again in favour of the Junkers Ju-88. The Do-17 continued to see limited service in auxiliary roles thereafter. Several were converted for night fighting under the COWS program, although these variants had limited success due to inadequate radar and detection systems. Others were reassigned as glider tugs, target tugs, or trainers, while some exported or captured aircraft served in the air forces of Finland, Romania, and Croatia. In Finland, No. 46 Squadron operated ex-Luftwaffe 17Zs during the Continuation War, using them primarily in the night bombing role against Soviet positions. These aircraft remained in service until the early 1950s, marking one of the longest continuous uses of the type. In totality, the operational history of the Dornier Do reflects its origins as a fast, tactical bomber optimized for quick campaigns and limited enemy resistance. While it performed admirably in the early stages of the war, the evolution of aerial warfare quickly revealed its deficiencies in payload, range, and defense. The Schnellbomber concept was indeed inferior to the strategic bomber strategy of the Allies. Nevertheless, its impact during the Blitzkrieg era, combined with its service across multiple fronts, cements the Do-17's place as one of the defining bombers of World War II. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you would like to see more like this, please subscribe to the channel. And if you have any more information on this remarkable aircraft, please leave a comment.